Hello and welcome back to Driftwood Hollow and of course to Timberborn. Where we last left off, we got all of our basics set up. We got food sorted, we got housing sorted, we got inventing/science sorted, and we built in a manual diversion system for when we have a bad tide. In today's episode, we are going to try and cover a whole lot. I would like to get some extra water storage. I'm thinking that can live maybe over here. I would like to increase our food production as well as our food variety. I would like to increase our population, start working on metal, and potentially start tackling this area over here, trying to make this a little bit nicer. Now, we have just come out of a drought, which is why there is not a lot of water on the map, but that is absolutely okay. We are going to start by cracking on with some food production, and that is going to involve building a secondary greenhouse. I'm going to grab myself some potatoes and plant them like so. I think that should be plenty. We might even end up ripping out some of these carrots depending on how this goes. I will let the game run in the background just because we can. And then I would like to have myself a grill, but we're going to need some more storage for that as well. So I'm thinking we throw down an extra storage there and an extra storage there. And then we can simply drag a path to that storage, grab ourselves the grill, and throw that down right about there. I think that will work out absolutely fine. Now, we do need a way to access those doors, and I am going to do that through ladders. This is a modded item, but I think it is a fantastic one. We are just going to grab ourselves some ladders, and honestly, I think I will build this at either end of this. So I'm going to have a ladder there and a ladder there. We do need to make sure that we place that path on top of that, and then I'll grab a platform going along that whole stretch, grab the paths back, and make sure that that all connects. That should be absolutely fantastic. Now, in this top storage, I would like this to store regular potatoes, and in this bottom storage, we are going to store grilled potatoes, which is what this grill is going to be making. So we are going to select that there, and once that all gets built up, we can go ahead and set some different things up in there as well. Now, as for our farmhouses, I am going to leave 3 workers on each because this is quite a large field. I don't know if this is too much food. It very well could be, but we are going to set one of these up to prioritize harvesting and the other can prioritize planting, and that should be absolutely fine. We might even be able to drop the workers on our planting one down to 2, and we might be able to get away with that. We'll see how that goes, but I'm going to let them crack on with this, and we'll come back in a little bit. And just like that, that is all built up and working, and I am going to automate both ingredients and products here. For ingredients, I don't need that many to get started because raw potatoes really don't do all that much for us. In fact, I mean, no, I still would like to automate ingredients just in case we don't have any. Then I wouldn't want anyone working here. So I'm going to say if we have more than 5% of our storage full of potatoes, go ahead and start working. I'm not 100% sure what this top number is, but we're going to set it to 10%. I think that'll be fine. And then automate products. If we have between 85 and 95% in our storage, you guys can stop working. I believe the way that this works is once we get to 95%, they'll stop working. And once we drop down back past 85%, they'll start working again to bring that back up to 95%. Perfect. That is all in and functional. We just need to wait for our potatoes to grow. But in the meantime, I would like to start working on something else. And that something else is gears. Now, gears are a separate building in the wood tab here. We will have to unlock that for 100 science. That is absolutely okay with me. Now, I would love to have a little bit more planks being produced, so I will throw that down there, and then we can go ahead and throw down our gear building right next to them so they all have power. Now, we do need to make sure we find somewhere to store our gears, so I'm going to grab myself a medium warehouse and scooch that back from the road just by 1 because this large warehouse is 3x3, so if we ever want to expand that storage, we have the room for it there. And then we'll just go ahead, simply say gears in there, make sure these are all set up correctly. So in terms of logs, I would love to keep some in stock, so I'm going to raise this up to between 10 and 15%. And then I will set the exact same things in our second plank cutting station here. As for gears, I would like to again automate absolutely everything. And I would like, let's say between 15 and 20% here is keep a few more planks than we do raw logs. And that should be absolutely fantastic. Now, in terms of our power, we are currently generating 435 and we only need 220. So that should keep us running for at least a little bit. So that should be all absolutely perfect and ready to go. The only thing we might be lacking here once all this starts to kick off is a few beavers. But I'm going to let them build up a few grilled potatoes before we go ahead and expand their population. So in the meantime, while we're waiting for that to happen, we can at the very least get them their first few well-being buildings. That is going to come in the form of a campfire right there. We will also unlock the shower and throw down a couple of them right there. I think they will very much appreciate that. That will get them the wet fur buff. And then as for what else we could go ahead and build, we definitely should build a couple of grindstones and a couple of medical beds for when our beavers get injured. So I'm going to throw down 2 grindstones right about there, and we will throw down 3 medical beds right about there, and I think that will be absolutely fantastic. All right, I'm going to let them get on with that, start making potatoes, and we will come back from there. Perfect. That is all officially built up. We have grindstones for when they chip their teeth. We have medical beds for when they are injured. And we have a lovely little campfire, which our beavers can enjoy during the evenings. Fantastic. The next thing that I want to do with our potatoes almost ready is go ahead and expand our housing just a little bit. Now, I'm going to go straight for the triple lodge just because we can afford it. We got that early science going super quick and super early. So let's go ahead and unlock that for 250. And for right now, let's go ahead and throw down 2 of these. Now, these have a door above their base level. So we're going to actually have to go up 2 levels to get to these, but again, I'm going to use the ladders to do just that. I'm going to face them backwards so they can definitely get in the doors, and it's just going to be as simple as that. We could put paths and stuff between these, but honestly, I don't think it's necessary. So I'm just going to leave it like that for now, and they'll go ahead and build that out. While they were building that out, we did go ahead and get our first potato harvest. You can see we now have 28 baked potatoes in storage, and that increased our happiness. That is because we got carrots, grilled potatoes, and we are also fulfilling most of the wet fur need. So average well-being is now 8, which is amazing. The next thing that I would love to tackle so that we can actually upgrade our diversion system up here is metal, and we have a good chunk of it back here very close to our base. So this should be fairly easy. Let's go ahead and get a path coming up this way, and yeah, let's go there, and that should allow us to get up the top to all of this metal. So we'll grab ourselves some stairs, and then just one final little bit of path up the top there, and we can grab our metal scavenging flag. Unlock that for 250 science. We'll throw one down right about there and another one right about there. That should be absolutely fantastic. Now, of course, that scrap metal does need to be stored somewhere, so we'll grab ourselves a large pile and throw it down. I guess there is as good as anywhere. I can't decide. I don't know. Anywhere in here. Actually, that fits nicely. Let's go with that. That should be perfect, and we'll set that to scrap metal. We'll let them collect that for a little bit, and then we'll soldier on with getting a smelter up and running and actually processing that metal into steel chunks or steel beams or whatever the game uses. We'll come back in a little bit. Oh no. One of our beavers made a terrible mistake and got stranded. that is absolutely not what you want to see. I think the easiest way would be to demolish this, but that will then strand both of these guys. So instead, I guess we just go ahead and build up a second path up here, just because we can. Hopefully they don't end up standing there. Just to make sure that they don't, I will delete those stairs for right now, and we can throw that in right about there. That way they'll have two paths up and down, and I will make sure that this construction priority is priority 3, so this gets done as soon as possible. And this beaver should now no longer be stranded, and we can build that staircase up there, just for the aesthetics of it more than anything else. I think that will work out absolutely fine. Alright, we now have 41 scrap metal, as they have collected a little bit of this already. And now we need to worry about our smelter. Now, I could build this down here nice and close to this, but I think I would rather keep all my production in one location. So I'm actually going to build it over here. And this actually works out perfectly, and you'll see why in just a second. We go ahead and unlock the smelter for 300 science. It is 1 tile longer than both the plank workshop and the gear workshop, which allows us to fit it in right there absolutely beautifully. Now, this is going to require 200 horsepower, which we can actually afford, but I think potentially it would be worth us getting another water wheel in here just to make sure we do always have enough power. Now, that is also going to require its own storage. We'll go ahead and set that to be steel, and that should work out fantastically. I'll let them build this up, and then we'll set up the automation of the steel. Alright, and that is now built. No available workers in the district. That should change very, very quickly here, and I definitely want this to be automated. I think 15 to 20% storage on our scrap metal is a little bit high, so I'm going to drop that down to 5 to 15. I think that'll be absolutely reasonable, and automate products can be left at 85 to 90. Now, let's just double check our power. Okay. Network power supply is currently 441. Demand is only 100. I believe that is because neither of these are currently working, because we don't currently have enough scrap metal in storage. But as soon as these kick on, that should be just about right, I believe. I think that'll be okay, which is absolutely perfect for us. But I think we can absolutely get more out of this power system, and that is absolutely something that I'm interested in doing. Now, to do that, I'm going to pause the game just so that all the noises aren't running in the background. And I would love to narrow this down just a little bit and have this come to straight about there. That way, we can go ahead and grab ourselves a couple more levees and throw them in at the bottom there. Grab ourselves a secondary water wheel as the game lags a little bit, and have that go straight into there. Now, at this point, we could even go as far as to move our power conduits over to this side, because this is directly connected to that plank workshop at the moment. But I think we'll leave that for a second. I just want to make sure they can successfully build the rest of this before we get too carried away. And in order to build that, they may require access down in here. I think the easiest way to get that done is to build a path coming down this way, or we could build a path coming down here, which might actually be better. So we'll grab our paths and structures, wooden stairs coming down like so. We can grab our path and just wrap this around so that connects nicely into there. And I'll even put a path over our levees just for the time being, so that they can walk on those and build underneath them. I don't know if that's 100% necessary, but it's what I'm going to do just in case they need it, and I'll even extend that path down there as well. Now, I'll stay in this view, and we'll speed this up as they get this built, and we'll see how much more power that actually starts producing us. The only thing we have to be slightly concerned about is this section of the river flooding, because we are narrowing the stream a little bit, but I think it'll be okay. We'll see. One thing I'm noticing as this is happening is we are struggling on logs, and that very well could be because we currently have no trees in this area. So in order to fix that, I think we can go ahead and just add a few more oak trees into this forest. I'll add them there, and we will go ahead and say make sure to actually cut those down, because if we don't do that, that won't help at all. But that should slightly speed up this process. We'll come back once they're finished with this. And of course they built this in such a way where they can't actually complete it. Fantastic. So if I get out of this view, show me what I'm building. Let's for the moment just deconstruct this water wheel, and I'll deconstruct this levee. That should allow them to build that one, and then everything should be okay from there. Alright, and that is officially built. We can now go ahead and remove these paths from the top of this because they are no longer required. We could also go ahead and remove the ones on the bottom there, but I may as well leave them there in case we need it later on down the road. The bad news is we can't test whether or not this is going to flood, and we also can't test how much power we're going to get because we are currently in a drought and we have 0 water flow. So I'm just going to let the game run for a little bit. Once this drought is over, we'll figure out if this is all working as intended or if we need to change and adapt our idea. Alright, here comes the water. This is the moment of truth. Will we get flooding, or will we just be absolutely fine? And hopefully the answer is the latter. It looks like we're okay. Looks like everything has reached an equilibrium around about there. And that means we are currently generating 950-ish horsepower, which is more than what we need. Absolutely amazing. The next thing that I would like to do is upgrade our system over here. And that is we're going to require us building some sluices, which is absolutely something we can do now that we have a little bit of metal coming in. Now, we don't have as much as I might like. And honestly, I don't know the reason. I guess it's just because we had a flood, right? So I might let this game run for just a little bit longer until we have a little bit more metal under our belts, and then we can go ahead and upgrade that system down there. In the meantime, though, I would like to think about water storage. And I'm thinking this area in here could make a particularly good dam. It's got decent height to it. If we sort of connect this up and sort of bring it down and around, I think we can make something here work. So I might just jump into planning mode for a second, come up with a plan that I think will work, and then we'll come back from there. Already, I'm realizing this is probably a project we don't quite have the resources for yet. And we might have to revisit this at a later stage because each one of these levees requires 12 wood. We currently have 53, so that is probably a little bit ambitious. I think I will cancel this for the moment and then we'll revisit it at a later date. Maybe that can be the next episode's main focus. So I will, for now, just go ahead and demolish all of that because I think I got a little bit carried away. I guess one thing that we can do while we wait for that all to happen is go ahead and upgrade our storages a little bit. So let's delete our log storage for now and grab in here and grab ourselves the underground pile. So these regular large piles can currently hold, 180 resources. These underground piles are the exact same size. They do cost 1,000 science, but I think that's going to be worth it. And they hold 1,000. So we're going to throw that down there. This is going to be for log storage. The only thing I may have to change is our priorities here, because now 10% of our storage is, well, that's 100 logs. That's actually a decent amount to keep on hand. I think I might just leave it as is and call it a day there. We'll continue building up that metal. We currently have 8. It's going a little bit slower than I would like, but it is going, so we'll come back in a little bit. And you know why I think this might actually be a little bit slower than I would like it to be? Because we don't really have all that many haulers at the moment. We have 4 builders in here, but we don't have any dedicated haulers, and I think that would absolutely be a good thing to get. So let's go ahead and build a hauling post right about there. Grab ourselves the path as the game lags out a little bit, and build that right in there. Now, this can have as many workers as we want. I'm going to put that at priority 0. So only do this if there is nothing else to do. Actually, I'm going to put that at the 2nd lowest priority because I would like our inventors to be at the very bottom of that totem pole. Now, we do currently have 18 unemployed beavers, so I don't think this is going to be an issue whatsoever. And in seeing that number, I'm even tempted to go ahead and build a builder's hut. And we can throw that right in there. That'll be 100 science, and we can assign 4 workers to that as well. I would kind of like this to be a lower priority, but I don't think I will. I would like things to be built as fast as we possibly can. So I'll let them get on with that. We should see an increased production in our smelter because we can now haul a lot more efficiently from our stockpile over here to this building. And I may even check prioritize building by haulers so this gets done just that little bit quicker. Another thing that I just noticed, we are up to 40 metal, so we can continue on with that in just a second. But we now have like 43 beavers. This water production may not be enough. And we can do 2 things about that. We can increase our water storage, which I absolutely want to do. So I will go ahead and unlock the medium tank. And thankfully we left a nice empty spot there for that to live. And I would like an extra pump. Now, I would prefer that this pump be in line with these ones just because that makes me happy, but this is absolutely optional. So I'm going to grab a couple of platforms out here so that we can build this. For right now, I'm going to throw paths on that, and as soon as they've built that up, we can go ahead and add that 3rd pump. And as we do this, we have our very first Badtide approaching. I believe this is our first. I don't think we had one in the other episode, but they're almost done with this pump, so hopefully we can get this done before that Badtide starts, and we can see how our diversion system is going to work, and then how we can improve it with the upgraded sluices. So I'm going to throw that in there. I will say please prioritize that construction and please prioritize that workplace, just so that we can get as much water as humanly possible before this bad tide hits, just in case it does turn out worse than we think it will. Now, why is this taking so long? Oh, everyone's asleep. Okay, there we go. That is now set up. We should now have enough water for everyone. I think the ratio is roughly 1 of these per 20 beavers. So having 44 beavers, 3 should be more than enough, and we should be able to get a decent reservoir in here without too much concern. But instead of upgrading this now, because that would be a bad idea with a bad tide incoming very, very soon, I'm going to let the game run until we hit that bad tide. We'll deal with that bad tide, and then we'll come back and upgrade this system to something a little bit more automated. All right, the bad tide is about to begin, and I'm going to center it on this view for the moment. And if I press shift, you can see the current contamination level of this water here is 0%. But as we speed up the game, that number is going to significantly increase all the way up to probably around 50 or 60%. There is a lot of water in here, so it shouldn't get too bad, but we definitely need to keep an eye on it. Right now, downstream, our water is still good. So I'm going to wait until the bad water hits around here. And then from that point, we can go ahead and divert that bad water off with our diversion system over here. So we'll come back once this bad water hits this spot. All right, with contamination levels around 5%, I think this is the perfect time to do it. You can see the bad water hasn't actually hit our floodgates just yet, but we want to make sure we don't get any if we can. A little bit is okay, but we don't want any if we can help it. So I'm going to set the height of these floodgates to 2, these floodgates to 0, run the game, they switch, and then we should see all of that water now being diverted down this way instead. It will probably overflow a little bit, but that should be absolutely fine. It may also overflow back here, but I'm not too concerned about that. The main thing is we don't have bad water down here. We have about 4% contamination, which I'm more than happy with. Anything under about 10, I'm okay with. Anything over that, I don't love. So our diversion system is currently working. This will all be automatic by the time we get to our next bad tide. But until that point, we do need to just skip ahead until this bad tide is over so we can go ahead and fix that system. Now, the bad tide has finished, but we can't immediately switch this back over because there is a massive reservoir of bad water over here. So we need to do the exact same thing that we did before and just wait for this clean water to wash out all of this bad water and have a nice healthy supply again. So we'll come back once this reaches around about contamination level of 5%. And just pausing the game, you can see now why I wanted to have these in 2 deep water, because we have a little bit of extra water pool here. So even though this is all run dry because, you know, we're diverting all of that water, we're not doing too badly because we still have drinking water available to us. Our crops may die, but we have a decent stockpile of food. I'm not too concerned about it, and especially because this is about to refill our entire system. We just need to give it a little bit longer before we can go ahead and open this up. Alright, I know I said 5%, but this is starting to concern me just a little bit. So let's go ahead and open it up now. It is currently at 10%. I think that will be absolutely okay. I'm going to open this before I close this, just so that we don't get as much water rushing through, potentially causing floods. We may get flooding anyway, but I think it'll be okay. This will basically shut itself off anyway because this is lower, which is something to keep in mind, but we can now close it just in case it does backfill in the future. And our water is now coming in. It's got contamination level of 10%, but honestly, I think that is absolutely fine. This did flood momentarily, but once it reaches equilibrium, we should be absolutely okay. Fantastic. Everything is now hydrated again. Absolutely what we wanted to see. A couple of these crops, I think, did die out because this water was not fully clean. It is what it is. It'll be absolutely all right. All right. With that all being said, we now have 86 metal in our inventory. We can go ahead and start working on this. And to do that, I'm going to basically just demolish all of these floodgates. They are no longer necessary. And we can go into our landscaping here. The sluice is what we already unlocked. This is going to use both planks and metal, whatever it is. And we are simply going to place, 3 there. Get rid of you. I don't need you. And we are going to place 4 down here. Now, I could probably get away with less, but I think that is going to be absolutely fine. Once this is all built, we can set this up, but actually, we can set it up right now. So the sluice has a couple of different options. We can close it if the downstream depth is above a certain threshold. We don't want to do that here. We can close it if it is above contamination level of 5%. That is absolutely what we want to do on this one. Let this water through if it is clean. And then on this one, we can close if it's below contamination 5%. So that way, once this water comes down, detects a bad tide, these will close, this will open. Once it gets clean again, this will close, this will open, which is exactly what we want. And I can even set this to be closed below contamination level of 1%. So this opens before this closes, just so we don't get quite as much of a rush of water in here. Now I'm going to do the exact same thing that we did before, throw down some paths in there, and they should get to work on this relatively quickly. And with that all said and done, the only thing left to do is go ahead and replace this block in here with a levee and call it a day. This should now be a fully automated system. Whenever we get a bad tide, we won't have to worry about it nearly as much as we did in the past. Now, let's take a little bit of a stock of what we've got going on. I did end up adding an extra 2 rows of potatoes down here, as well as some extra trees, just to try and speed up the process of getting our resources. But honestly, we're looking pretty healthy. We have 37 baked potatoes, 65 carrots, and a population of 45. It seems like we've reached a stage that is reasonably sustainable. I am tempted to just add in one extra row of potatoes, and I think that will make all the difference where we can actually start filling up these storages and having that excess food. Now, the next thing that I want to deal with is the fact that we ran out of water during that bad tide. I definitely think we require a little bit of a solution in here, even if it's not quite as massive as I planned originally. I think we should go ahead and add a small dam in this area, not quite this entire thing, right? I think that makes more sense to me. In order to do that, I'm going to grab a path, run it up this way, grab a couple of stairways, do exactly that, and then, honestly, rather than marking these trees for deconstruction, since we've got a little bit of time, let's just go ahead and grab ourselves a couple of lumberjack flags for in here. We have a couple of extra workers available to us. And that way we can just simply cut down a bunch of these trees. And I think back to around there should be more than enough. We'll do that on all of those levels and make sure that I actually bring that staircase all the way up to that top level, and that should be fine. So the next thing we need to do is plan this out a little bit, and I don't know exactly how I would like this to look, so I will jump into a quick little time lapse as I figure that out, and then we'll come back from there. I think something like that should be a decent starting point. We can at the very least start building that while all of these trees get cut out, and then we can finish that off once that has happened. So I think that'll be good. We're basically just surrounding this entire area with levees. I did want to widen this out a little bit so I can put the floodgates a little bit further back, just to make sure that we do have enough water flow coming through here that this doesn't all flood. I hope that works out the way that I think it will. If not, we can always adjust later on down the line, but for now, I'll let them crack on. And our first casualty of this build is a stranded beaver, which is always fun. Can I just delete the bottom block of this? No, I would have to delete both of them. Okay, you get out of there, sir. You'll be fine. And we'll go ahead and throw those straight back in. Alright, it looks like we can't actually reach the top of this. Which is fine. There is a way around that. We'll just simply grab ourselves a ladder and we can just climb the edge of this dam just like so that they can get on top. We'll go ahead and throw a path on each of those, and that should, in theory, fix that problem. I don't know if these ones are going to be okay. I think they will. Looks like our trees are getting cleared nicely and they're getting on with this relatively quickly, so we'll come back in a little bit. These beavers just keep getting stranded, which makes sense. I did mark all of this for cutting, but, you know, I would prefer if they didn't. I think at this point we can just simply go ahead and remove those and start building this all the way out. And we've got the exact same problem over here. I expected that to happen, but that is okay. We can basically do the exact same thing that we did on the other side. Let me just get rid of these paths and make sure that is all out of the way as the game lags again. And figure out how we want this to look. So that's going to go there, that'll go there, that'll go there, and this is not quite right. Not quite right at all. Okay, let me fix this up real quick. Get rid of that, get rid of that, get rid of that. This should come in a little bit, like so, and then we'll have a 2, and then we'll have a 1. And honestly, I don't think we need to block that side off. I think that'll be okay. And then from there, we can simply go ahead and do the exact same thing we did on the other side, which is to build ladders all the way up to the top so that they can actually finish building all of this out, and we can start working on our actual dam system. All right, I believe that is everything now officially complete, and we can figure out where we want to put the floodgates. Now, the reason I left this so wide is because I would like this to waterfall over multiple edges. I believe the game can only handle 2.2 centimeters of current per edge of a waterfall, which is why I built this a little bit wider than we potentially needed it to be. So with that in mind, this may waste more resources than it's worth, but you know, I think it's going to look good. So that's the main thing. We need to figure out how to go ahead and build this. I know that I want a sluice on this level down here, but the question is, where do I want my dam to actually end? And I think I would like it to end here at that line. So if we jump into landscaping, we can go ahead and throw down a levee right across there, grab ourselves our sluices and throw them in a line right across there. Just to make this look a little bit neater, I will also throw a levee in that block right there. And then we can simply go ahead and build this up with levees the remaining way, leaving the top open so that we can add some floodgates in here. Now that is going to have to stand up all the way to there, I believe. And then we can have waterfalls at that point. So we'll go like so, grab ourselves this singular floodgate, throw that in right about there, and that will be our dam. So if I can get that back, the way this is going to work is when we have a drought, these sluices are going to keep this topped off, and these are going to provide overflow for when this is full and we have running water. Now, in terms of actually getting this built and getting to all of these locations, that is something that I don't know how we're going to do. We have a little bit of a path up to the top over here, so that could come in handy. But we may also require getting down in here and potentially using some ladders as scaffolding as we go along. I think to start with, I will go ahead and throw down a couple of, well, actually let's use ladders in here as the game lags again. I don't know why that is the case, but it is, so we just have to deal with it. I'll bring that down to there, and then path there, and that way they can reach all of that bottom part. In terms of reaching up here, I guess we just go something like that and add another ladder in there, path to there, path to there. That should allow them to access most of it, but we'll let it run for a little bit, see how far they get along before they need our intervention. All right, the sluices are in at the very least, so we can go ahead and set those up. I would like this to close if the above downstream depth is 1.5, because this is 2 tiles deep, this is only 1 tile deep, so this only says 0.5. That will keep this at least half full, which is fantastic. So they are set to default, and that should work out the way that we want it to. It looks like they're still managing to build a little bit of this, but I think they will struggle in a little bit here once this gets a little bit higher. Also looks like we may have a tiny bit of flooding. Actually, no, I think that might be perfect. We might have nailed that. We could potentially get rid of that block entirely, and I think that problem would actually be solved, because that is that going on land? Yeah, it is. If we get rid of that, does that fix it or make it worse? That does indeed make it worse. Okay. Let's cancel that for now, because that gives them access to a whole bunch more stuff that will be beneficial to us. This little bit of flooding here I'm not too concerned about, and it is actually fixed once this is all built up anyway, so that should be good. Now, can they reach any of this? No, they cannot. So we're going to need to give them access to that, and I don't know how many tiles they can build below them, and I honestly don't know the best way to do this. We could potentially think about doing like platforms across here. That will at least get them some of the way. If we do that and do that, that can be our scaffolding for now. They can crack on with that, and then we'll figure it out as we go along. All right, they can now no longer reach again, so let's go ahead and add 2 ladders. Should be more than enough. We'll grab more of these platforms, bring them all the way across to there, And I believe that will be enough to finish this off. Are you stranded down there? You shouldn't be. You should be able to walk over to here and up this ladder. What are you doing, good sir? You are just somewhat stuck for some reason. I don't know if there's a way to rescue you. I'm sorry, sir. It's not my fault. You're a little bit silly. That's not on me. That's on you. If you can't get out of there, that is not my problem. I am sorry, Master Sting, but come on. Alright, we have a little bit of flooding going on over here. It's not the end of the world. For now, I'm just going to lower these floodgates. So hopefully it floods this way rather than that way. And we also have a bad tide coming in very, very soon. Now, I think the majority of this problem is because I did not allow them to build this, which can be pretty easily fixed with a few more ladders. But I tried just instead building a platform in here. If I could please see that platform and raise the priority on that and raise the priority on that, I think that will fix that whole situation. But we're going to take a little bit of a break to watch how this bad tide works as it starts to come in now. We should see that as soon as this contaminated water hits our system over here, that all of that water will be diverted. And I understand this is a little bit of a slideshow at the moment. That is because we are running at 30 times speed with a mod, and you know, we sort of missed it, but it worked. It definitely worked. This is 5% contaminated. That is absolutely fine with me. It looks like we got that corner built as well, so this is all working again. Let me see if I can potentially catch the end of this rather than the start, because, you know, that didn't work out all that well. Although, another thing that we can actually look at is we now have a pool of water in here that is slowly being released by these sluices down here. So these are currently closed because the downstream depth is currently 1.53. But if we speed this up a little bit, as soon as some of this water gets evaporated, this should open, topping it back up just a little bit and saving all of our water in this nice big dam up here. So any moment now, this is currently a 1.52, speed it up a little bit more, 1.51, and any second now, slow it down just a little bit, make sure that we actually catch it. 1.51, come on, there we go. It's now 1.5, okay, maybe it needs to be 1.49. And there we go. It opened for a split second, topped up the water to 1.53, and it should continuously open and close to make sure that we never actually run out of water in here, but until we run out of water in here. But let's double check on this bad tide. This is currently at 27%, and if we speed it up to slideshow mode, I'll slow this down a little bit more before we get close to that cutoff point, and we'll see our automatic diversion system working as intended, hopefully. Alright, it should be about to happen. We're at 6%. And as soon as this hits 5, which it is now, this will open up, bringing all this water in. And you can see we definitely didn't even get close to running out of water in here. And this isn't even completely built yet. So that is absolutely fantastic. Master Sting is still stuck down here for whatever reason. Let me just double check our paths. Yeah, this is definitely all connected. You have a path there, you have a path there. You absolutely should be able to get out. Let's just add all of the paths. Okay, he moved. Okay, he's out. Okay. I don't know what his problem was, but sure. This is about to be done, and we'll come back and check it out once it is finished. There is the last piece in right there. Let's quickly jump into our Demolish Buildings tab and say get rid of all of those scaffoldings. We no longer require them. I might even go ahead and remove all of our ladders over here because I want this to look nice and clean. We'll get rid of that, and we'll get rid of that path on top. That should be all of it. I will remove that rubble because there is no way we're reaching it. We can collect this though. Grab this, get rid of all of those, I believe. Why won't it let me? Oh, it's because they're doubles. That makes sense. Get rid of all of those. We'll leave that ladder in for now. It's going to be underwater anyway. And this ladder can stay for the moment as well. But this is our dam. We should now be able to go into these floodgates, set these to like, I don't know, 0.95. Our water should fill up to that point, which may be a little bit high, but I think it'll be okay. Yeah, perfect. And it's flooding over the edge. Okay, let's go for 0.8 instead. You've got to remember that the water here, even if that's at 0.8, this up here will be at like 0.9. Looks like 0.8 is the happy medium where we don't get any flooding there. And then if we speed this up, this should all reach equilibrium down here relatively soon. Okay, it's pulsing a little bit more than I might like it to. Is there a way to fix that? I don't believe there is. It looks like it's slowly settling down. Okay, we've got a decent flow rate now, and we have a pretty decent sized chunk of water that we can live off during droughts, which is exactly what I wanted to see. We set up metal today. We set up a massive dam, which I wasn't even planning on doing. We got food production up and running, humming along nicely. We're now sustaining a population of 41 to 45, which is fantastic. Metal is being smelted. Everything is looking good in Driftwood Hollow. If you guys want to see anything specific come next, I would love to hear it. My next thought is to go ahead and cap this off here so that we don't get this bad water coming down here, and create another diversion system on this good water source so that this is always nice and clean as well. But if you guys have other suggestions, I would love to hear them down in the comments below. This is where I am going to end today's episode. If you guys are enjoying the series, go ahead and leave a like and a comment for the sake of engagement. Consider subscribing if you haven't already. Consider becoming a Golden Panda member if you would like your name in the game so you can be shamed just like Master Sting was today, or become a regular member to see the videos a couple of days early potentially. With that all being said, happy building. No, that's not how I do my ending. Until next time, happy building, happy damming. Bye guys.